Velkommen og god dag alle sammen. Welcome back to the series where I speak about Havamal. I'm reading every stanza of this poem and giving a summary and explanation, and when applicable, I'm giving you a couple bonus notes about the history of the pre-Christian Scandinavians, because there are a lot of things that many people forget and don't know about the history, and understanding these will give us a better idea of the meaning behind some of these stanzas in Havamal that can be a bit more confusing. So we left off at stanza 9 last time. So far it has been advice on opinions of others and a little bit about self-confidence, and also a lot to do with how to be a good host. And now we are getting to things about traveling and alcohol. So stanzas 10 and 11, I'll read these together because they go together. A better burden no man bears on the road than much good sense. That is thought better than riches in a strange place. Such is the recourse of the indigent. Okay, that's 10. Looking at 11. A worse provision on the way he cannot carry than too much beer bibbling. So good is not, as it is said, for beer, the sons of men. Okay, so this one is basically saying that wisdom is the best thing that you can bring on the road with you, and it's better than money. Maybe you could use it as currency and get paid for your wisdom or something like that. It's not quite clear. It's also says the worst thing you can bring on the road is too much alcohol. So of course maybe alcohol is good to bring on the road sometimes if you sell or trade or even offer it to some new friends or hosts, but I think the meaning of this stanza is clearly not to get too drunk while you are traveling. Good advice. I can't say that I take that advice very often. I like to get wasted wherever I travel, and maybe it's gotten me into trouble sometimes, but a lot more good things have happened from it, cool stories and meeting cool people. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think about it, but it's pretty good advice here overall. Wisdom is a good thing to bring. So on to the next one, number 12. A worse provision no man can take from table than too much beer bibbling. For the more he drinks, the less control he has of his own mind. So here's another one about drinking, basically saying not to drink too much because you turn into a dumbass. Well, these kinds of passages are kind of the ones that get us to think that this is a grumpy, arrogant old man writing these things. Yes, I like to get drunk and get wasted, but I don't think I've ever been too drunk that I'm that much of a dumbass. But I actually feel like my mind gets sharper, and I speak quicker, actually, and think and respond quicker. But me, I'm not important. What the important thing to look at is the pre-Christian Scandinavians. And the pre-Christian Scandinavians, we have a lot of evidence to say that they agree. We have a lot of ancient sources that really seem to suggest that the Germanic tribes thought of alcohol as being kind of like a life force, and then when you drink, the real you comes out, your real spirit comes out. And that was also associated with rituals and initiation, especially mead. I mean, we see examples of this all over the poetic and prose Eddas. Also, we know that the Vikings used to get drunk to have their poetry little rap battles. Remember the mead of poetry, which most of you have heard of it when Odin gets that. But the Vikings also believed that mead would make you better with words and more poetic. And then they would drink and have their little rap battles with each other and boast and basically insult the others just as a fun little game. So mead and alcohol was very valued, and I think the real meaning of this stanza still has to do with traveling. If you're a guest in someone's house, then don't get drunk and be a dumbass there. However, if you are at a party or some type of other thing, have at it. That's my opinion, and clearly the Vikings thought that too. So on to the next stanza, number 13. Oblivion's heron, 'tis called that over drink hovers. He steals the minds of men. With his bird's pinions I was fettered in Gunnlöd's dwelling. Okay, this one talks about drinking again, and it basically says that sometimes when you drink, a bird flies over your head and steals your memory. And then he says how this happened to him in Gudlöd's dwelling. Now, Gunlöd we actually see in the Prose Edda, I think it is, and this was the giantess that was guarding the mead of poetry. When Odin traveled there to get a drink, most of you know this story, but most scholars believe that this represents some kind of initiation ritual that humans actually practiced. Odin going to Gunlöd and her getting him the mead of poetry. It's some sort of spiritual or maybe even a shamanic journey, and it was definitely some ritual that humans practice. But that's going to take way too long. I'm going to go over all that in another video, but you can see that on my channel if you click on the Gods and Deities translated section. I'll do that video soon. Number 14. Okay. This is a good one. Drunk I was. I was over drunk at that cunning fjallars. It is the best drunkenness when everyone after it regains his reason. So a lot of people translate this one differently, and it's pretty funny because basically saying I was drunk, I was fucked up at that party at Fjallar's house last night. But then he says the best kind of party is when everyone leaves the party with their mind still intact. I definitely can't say I agree with that one either. I think the best parties are when everyone gets blasted, but it is nice to sober up before everyone leaves and laugh about what you've all done. But that's just my opinion. But I think there's plenty of evidence, like I spoke about earlier, that the Vikings thought this way too. They like to get a little bit tipsy at parties. And stanzas like this are where it gets me to think that the person who wrote Havamal was kind of a grumpy old, nerdy old man that was just kind of arrogant and thought all the people around him were dumbasses. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think about this stanza. Most of Havamal is great wisdom, like I said, but I'm not sure I agree with this one. And I know in the pagan community, actually, it's either whenever I've gone to events or hung out with friends or things like that, it's either one, you're all in on drinking and having a good time, or nothing at all. And it gets a bit awkward, all the people having a drink and a good time, and there are a few little outliers there that are just kind of being arrogant and looking down upon others that are drinking, and it's not right. And they kind of say, I don't drink. I'm straight edge and special, and the Vikings didn't drink, and Havamal says we shouldn't drink, and you shouldn't either. Oh yeah, the Vikings drank. You bet your ass the Vikings drank. We have plenty of sources for this. Now, if you don't want to drink and it's not your thing, that's fine. Then don't drink. But don't try to push your values about alcohol and try to make up lies about the pre-Christian Norse people, because they love to have a drink. And other people today like to have a drink too. So if you decide to be straight edge, just be straight edge, and that's fine. And that's your values, and that's cool. Just like Havamal, remember, is the values of one man, or maybe a few men that composed Havamal. It was not the values of an entire culture. Just like Jesus didn't write the Bible, Odin didn't write Havamal. It was one or a couple men who wrote Havamal and these other poems, and we have to treat it as such. It was not the book of ethics. It was not the ethics system for an entire people. Even though 90% of Havamal reflects values that we can all agree upon, some of it, is debatable, and it's just alcohol is not one of them, and that's fine. Different folks, different strokes. We all have different ideas about that, but that's okay. We'll get on to the next video, and I'll be going through stanzas 15 through 19 probably. Vi ses nästa gång.